love, love, love. It's really lovely, the book. I love the
Thank you.
layout. It's so streamlined, so clean. I just feel like, what was your biggest influence to write this? There's a
Well, my
lot in
biggest,
here.
there is, yes. And I'm glad you say that. I think last time I counted, there was over 200 spells. I'm not sure if all of them made the cut. I didn't count once it was printed. But the final version, I think there was about 200 spells. And, I'd really say that the biggest inspiration, it's really my community, my friends online and people that I interact with. They really they'll reach out to me and they'll ask me questions and ask me to write a spell for them, and I get to help people with like real life things that they're going through, not things that are vague like just love or just money, just luck. It gets to be like real intentions in real life situations and different perspectives, and I really enjoy doing that.
Describe in your terms what natural magic is.
Natural magic to me is anytime that you tap into the natural flow of energy. And we see that the most in nature. So anytime that you're working with nature or you're working with those natural cycles, those natural rhythms, the natural energies, the energies of the four elements, things that are, fundamental to nature and the way that magic naturally works.
You have a lot of simple, workings, but they're really unique. I mean, again, I must have read 5,000 books in my lifetime since, a long time ago. And, I don't want to say you were offering different spells. They were very, very unique, yet approachable and simple. Do you think this was inspired by your magical upbringing, your tradition, the way you grew up?
I come from I say a very magical, very witchy family. I'm probably the one who's most vocal about calling myself a witch. I don't know if every woman in my family would call themselves a witch, but I certainly would say they do have always done witchy things. From North Carolina, my mom and my nana and great grandmother always had sayings, and they were folk healers and always had remedies and things like that. So I got very used to looking at things differently. In my coven, we call it finding deeper meaning. So you're looking at things like symbolism, patterns, and let's see, I mean, memories that you might have tied to different things, and you're sort of finding the magic that way. And then through my personal studies, where I sort of branched away a little bit from my family's folk traditions and started learning more about Wicca myself, where we learned so much about correspondences and a little bit more of a formal tradition when it comes to the theories behind how magic works and how things communicate. So I blend both of those anytime I do workings myself, anytime I write them. I always say I speak correspondences. So oftentimes if there's a need or desire when I'm going to write a spell, I start by putting it into one of the four elements. I categorize it, the need or desire, into one of the four elements. And then it sort of spirals from there. What is the symbolic action? What is does it fall under the category of fire? Should we use a candle? Does it correspond with this herb or this rock? And it gets really fun. It's quite exciting for me to put the puzzle pieces together.
And you also encourage the reader to, customize things. And that's always tricky for beginners. So how would you ease a beginner into that who may be like, I don't know if I should try this, or how would I customize something I'm working on?
Oh, great question. So I'll start with all of the spells in the book are beginner friendly. So no one should be afraid to do any of them. That is one thing that a lot of my community, they've requested. One person said, I just want to stop reading and start practicing. There's a certain amount that I can take in all this information. I've got to put it to good use. So it's sort of that, teach a man to fish saying, we need to get you actually practicing. So the point is, you're not going to read the book cover to cover. You're gonna pick something and do a working. The point is to get working, to get practicing. And so if you're trying to customize a spell, what I would say is look at the spell, see what ingredients you already have. If you want to collect or purchase more ingredients, that's fine. But if you find yourself, short of one or two ingredients, then you can flip to the back of the book and look for substitutions based on your intention. So if it's a healing spell, then you can find a swap for something that you might have, or you can easily omit it. They're all built in a way, the spells are constructed in a way that they're layered and they stack the odds in your favor. So if you take something away, it's not necessarily going to be ineffective. We're just adding certain elements to it to stack the odds in your favor.
Do you want to talk a little bit about the Naturally Modern Witch Coven?
Yeah, so we have the Naturally Modern Witch Coven, and we're dedicated to developing a personal practice that flows with everyday life. So I can really simplify that by saying we just want to live witchy. We just want to live a magical life. I think many of us, especially once you've been practicing a while, you're not doing spells every day all the time. You're doing them sort of more on an as needed basis, and you're maybe honoring some seasonal shifts and maybe the moon. But at a certain point, whether you're a beginner or you've been doing it a long time, you want to feel like that witch, right? And so that's really what the coven is about is I take you through the naturally modern witch method, which teaches you the steps to develop your practice that flows with everyday life. So looking at your personal rhythms. So we're going to look at how your day flows, how that works for you, looking at your region and your connection to nature. And then we cover things that almost every witch goes through. I call it the three pitfalls. So you need to find time to practice your craft or feel like you're practicing it enough. Um, you know, Also get over some of these, like the witch wound, or you feel like you're not doing enough, you don't know enough to actually practice. So we sort of walk through things like that and how magic works, what is sacred space, what is spiritual hygiene, how do you develop a code of ethics, record keeping and things like that, learning about different paths and traditions.
What was your proudest moment when you finished this book?
Oh, writing the acknowledgments. It's so interesting because I think we all skip over the acknowledgments in books. I know I had many times and I never will now because it's interesting because in this book and in many of them, it's the first page, but it's the last one you write. And I really didn't realize how emotional I was over the book. I had a couple talks about writing a book several times that had fallen through. And so I had not gotten too attached to this one. I just thought, okay, I'm going to do my job. I'm going to write the spells and, we'll clock in and clock out. Right. And then I go to write those acknowledgments and, oh, I'm just bawling. I think especially where I thanked my editor, because I really didn't ever think writing a book would happen. It was amazing thought. I was so bad at grammar to have, had the talk in the first place. So that was my proudest moment was at the end and just thinking about how much, went into it, how much I had tried to detach during the process and then it all hit me at the end.
What do you hope readers will take away from this book?
That they can do it. They can do magic. Don't be afraid to jump in. It's a practice, so you got to practice it. I think you're going to learn by doing.